I would like to stress that the Western political elite and a lot of the Western culture is at war with itself, at war with its own tradition. And that's why they don't stop this genocide against Christians, because they need to get rid of the Christian church, the Christian voice, to implement a new world order, to implement a new belief system, because Christianity actually gives people light to understand what is the truth, and it gives personal freedom. And this is exactly what they don't want. I mean, it is a kind of anti-Christian spirit that is at work. And normally in these political programs, we don't talk about spiritual matters, but we need to do that, because you can't understand what's going on in the world today if you don't understand that underneath the political agenda is a spiritual agenda, and it's not really rational, but it's full of hatred against Christianity, because nobody can explain why in these human rights times that nobody really cares about the Christians. I think you can say that secularism has seen Christianity as its enemy for a long time. And Democrats and leftists and also globalists, they only believe that ethnical minorities, women, Muslims, and homosexuals can be victims, not Christians. White men and Christians are evil people, so to say. So I think you can say in that regard, it would be political incorrect to say these things. But I think there is a deeper reason. And I've thought a lot about this, and I also made a YouTube video on it on my own channel. And I think there's a spiritual reason for this. I think globalists, they actually, and that's not something we talk about a lot in the political commentaries, but I think that they have a sort of, dark side, and it means that they have a kind of hatred against Christianity, because what globalism really wants is to turn over the Christian world order and implement a new belief system. And they have to get rid of Christianity for this, to carry out this plan. And I think that's why they don't do anything to stop persecutions of Christians. And I think I actually think it's right to say that there is a kind of demonic element in it, because it's really not rational, because we have so many human rights movements, and it's really a mystery why nobody or everybody is really silent about Christians.
Well, the Foreign Office indicates that Christians are the most persecuted religious group around the world. Its interim findings suggest that Christianity could be wiped out in parts of the Middle East. The British Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, said political correctness had prevented proper discussion of the subject. Well, with me now is Ryan Christopher from the campaigning group Alliance Defending Freedom International. Welcome to you. Thanks very much for being with us. Now, yours is a Christian organisation. What do you make of this report? Presumably you're not surprised by its findings.
Not at all, Samantha. Thank you for having me. We welcome this report, as do many of us, and it's a great first step by the government in recognising that this has been a neglected issue in the press, by government departments, politically, over the last many years, in fact. That Christian persecution happens to 80% of the 1/3 of the world who suffer religious persecution.
A new interim report released at the request of the British Foreign Secretary says Christian persecution in some parts of the world is, quote, close to meeting the international definition of genocide, with Christians being targeted by extremist groups in the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, and East Asia. For more on this, we bring in the president of the Iraqi Christian Relief Council and senior fellow of the Philos Project, Juliana Taimoorazy. Juliana, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me on, Molly.
It's really startling to see that sort of figure, that takeaway from the report, that it could potentially be reaching genocidal levels. Also worth noting from this report, 80% of religious believers who are being persecuted around the world are Christians. Should this be a wake-up, a worldwide wake-up?
Absolutely. There has been a genocide that is already underway. Open Doors report, 1 out of 9 Christians, Molly, across the world are being persecuted today.
And of course, this causes not just potentially death, as we're talking about genocide, but also people being pushed out of their homelands, and the religion, where it perhaps had a stronghold, being forced out of areas where Christians lived. I want to take a listen. This is the British Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, speaking in Kenya.
Around 250 million Christians being persecuted, 3,000 losing their lives last year alone, and that's increasing. And there are many different reasons for that. Religious conservatism, politicians playing on people's religious prejudices, state-sponsored oppression, terrorism.
He also talked about political correctness. Do you think that plays a role?
Absolutely. Actually, I believe the death of most of the people that are suffering today is truly because of the political correctness, because the world turns a blind eye to this. And when we are politically correct, we are sympathizing with those terrorists that are destroying communities and erasing histories. For example, the Assyrian people in Iraq, our history, they're trying to erase our history by destroying our monuments and really pushing out us from the homeland.
Europe is being run by governments that do not care about their Christian heritage and Christian religion. They don't care about anything that's happening. All they want to do is rule and stay in power, and they use the political correctness machine to do so.
Talk about the political correctness. Is that going to be the death of our societies around the world?
It is the current beginning of the death. It's already happening. There are areas in France where Christians cannot walk freely. President Macron has come out saying that the Islamist movements want to secede from France. This is a leader of a country telling you that he has lost control. He's admitting finally that he has lost control. There are serious agendas being played in that region. Look, I am a Muslim, but I cannot live in an Islamist theocracy. I can live in a Christian government based on their constitution, because that is where peace lies. I can't live in a place where ISIS rules the area. That's no Muslim with a brain that works would want to live under ISIS, right? And when we come to the West trying to warn the governments and intelligence agencies about what is happening, about the people we fled from, we have this new political correctness agenda that tells us, oh, we're the racist, we're the ones who are traitors, and the extremist needs to be understood and embraced, and, you know, they have a point, let's listen to them. And sooner or later, they're in parliament, they're in government, and there you go in America, you have Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib changing the narrative in Washington that is now affecting the whole, influencing and affecting the narrative around the world, attacking Jews, attacking Christians, and this is just the beginning. So if Christians don't wake up, Christian leaders don't wake up, then we Muslims who fled from extremists can't help you anymore. We tried warning you.
It's globally. And that's why I say it is the globalist who sits back and they do nothing about this because they want it. And I even think that they are making Islam do the dirty job, so to say, because it is the Western elite that is behind all this. And we have to be aware of that.
You understand religious persecution is a major problem in countries around the world. And now this new report gives us a better understanding of the world's top
This report
offenders.
is unique in that the 9 members of the U.S. Commission for International Religious Freedom aren't burdened by diplomacy. Unlike many State Department accounts, these observers tell it like they see it.
We believe as a commission that no person of whatever faith they are should have to fear within their house of worship.
For the world's Christians, the situation is especially dire.
Christians are the most persecuted religious group in the world, and it's accelerating.
It is a spiritual thing here, and I know it's very disturbing or not usual for people who are watching, you know, for political programs to deal with spirituality, but it is a spiritual problem. It is a spiritual war more than it is a political struggle, and I think Europe is losing it because we have lost the faith, and our governments is even against a Christian world order. They want to implement some kind of globalist world order, which is an anti-Christian society. We already see it, the breakdown of nations, same-sex marriages, the attack on the traditional family, things like that, gender. So everything that belongs to the Christian world order is being broken down, and Islam is going to take over.
But Ibn, I mean, but you make the most important point, is that if Christians are not going to defend their own faith, then who will, Ibn?
Yeah, but we are so spoiled. We're used to that. I mean, we are used to that our governments will take care of it, and we are very naive because we believe in democracy and, you know, freedom of speech and all these things. But there are many Christians right now who cannot talk about their faith because they're going to be punished for it, because the thought police is already there. You cannot, you know, say anything against same-sex marriages. You cannot say anything against transgenderism. All the old Christian values are politically incorrect. So it means that it's already, you know, taking place here in Europe, Christian persecution, but in a more subtle way. And Christians really have to wake up and see that Christians, at least in the Western part of the world, really need to be able to be warriors, to fight, and also be ready to die for the faith. I mean, that's how the Christian faith spread in the Roman Empire. It was because Christians would stand up for their beliefs and they would be ready to die. We're very spoiled. We're not ready to die for anything. We just want the welfare state to take care of it, and, you know, everything is just all right. But we need to learn that time is changing. And we cannot depend on our governments to protect our churches and our faith. So